Mindfully with Tumishe, the podcast is back. And yes, if you listen to the last conversation, I have no idea what I'm going to title that conversation, but I'm sure it will come with Adedayo Oderinu before he begins to go again. We did say that was not the major reason for this for coming together, but hopefully this time around we will record what we're supposed to record. Yeah, hopefully. When to I don't want to say thoughtful, but when to mindful people sit down together, this is what you get. Extremely mindful man, I tell you. Adedayo, welcome.
Oh, it's glad to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
You said that before. It's not so bad though. It's not so bad. I remember the first time you said that. Like very fun. But you write so beautifully, so beautifully. Of course, if you do not know Adedayo Oderinu, please introduce yourself properly this time. No, not with Oriki.
Well, it has to be there.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go.
My name is Adedayo Oderinu. Let's say now, there's a second part. Yeah, I almost finished the curriculum.
Go ahead.
Now, if you say, yeah, goddamn correct. Well, I'm a broadcast journalist and also I am a digital marketer and I look for trouble for a living.
That is true. That, I can tell you guys, is true. Alright, so, you know how I'm going to start this conversation? We're going to talk about as intended, which I think you have even talked about in the last conversation, but I really want us to sit down with as intended. Okay. But let's start with the number one question you and I tried to answer, or the first question you asked me. I'll read the post, but the first question you asked me was, what is patriarchy to you?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you remember that. Yeah. You remember that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to answer right now. So it is my honor and joy.
Okay, let's go.
To ask you, what is patriarchy to you?
Well,
I know the answer, but go ahead.
Let me say this. I told you that I think people who subscribe to labels as a way of life, I think there's something wrong with them. Like, I'm a patriarch, I'm a feminist, I have a problem with it.
I'm a matriarch, yeah. I'm a misogynist.
Because I think life is fluid. I think there are those moments in life where you take an ideological point of view to issues, but we're supposed to be dynamic humans. You're supposed to irritability is a response to stimuli in basic science.
Okay.
So you are supposed to respond to stimuli in most cases. Circumstances are supposed to reveal your position on things. I say the only general rule to life that I know is kindness. And well, we can have intentionality, by the way. So, but I don't think that patriarchy, feminism, matriarchy, I don't think they are strict life rules that anybody should say this is what I am. Which is what I am, you get. So, away from that, what patriarchy should mean to me is, as the word defines it, is the supremacy of the man in the union of a man and a woman. If I understand it correctly, because I've never tried to really understand what would make people say they are patriarchs, they are this. Now, that is the world believing that the man is supposed to be superior in every circumstance, in every sphere of marriage, in every sphere of any union with the woman. So, but I think that is faulty. I think it's faulty.
Okay.
I think the position of a man in every union is the position of leadership. And sometimes leadership is from the back, not from the front at all times. Leadership is service at so many times. Sometimes leadership is decision making. Now the world wants to focus on the decision making aspect of leadership alone. They want to have decision making does not even have to be one person. So what they want to do is, we are coming from a generation of men who the entire family will have half fish, half fish, half fish, half fish, but daddy will have 4. That's the generation we came from.
True.
So, the opinion people have about patriarchy is the idea that the father is
everything.
Do you understand? Now, in this case, fatherhood is leadership. The husband ministry is a ministry of leadership. Now, leadership does not mean you have the better thing in the family. No. Leadership is you carry everybody along. You understand the needs, the yearnings of everybody. And find a way to harmonize them. Do you understand? That's why I'm sorry to go biblical. The Bible says
sorry.
Wives
why are you sorry?
Oh, well, you know, I'm not,
go ahead. I'm even shocked that you're even going biblical, but go ahead.
I know you have not. So the Bible says, wives, love your husbands. I mean, wives, respect your husbands.
Submit whatever the
love your wives. Now, in love, there is understanding of the person you're married to. In love, there is concern for their growth. In love, there is service to them. In love, there is. It's all encompassing.
Yeah.
It is. You know. So to me, what does patriarchy mean to me? It's a waste of time. That's what it means.
All right. So yesterday, I was having some conversation at my secondary school, and then somebody said female chauvinism. I'm like, is this female chauvinism now? Like,
I'm going to encounter a lot of life ideologies in this life. Okay, let's
I'm not even kidding. And then I'm trying to look for it because I had to go. I had to go Google it.
Okay.
Like female chauvinism, and then it looks like it's been there since forever. All right. A female is a noun. A female who patronizes, disparages, or otherwise denigrates males in the belief that they are inferior to females and thus deserving of less than equal treatment or benefit. And they say it's not feminism. It's clear it's not feminism.
I think that's a subset of feminism.
I didn't know until yesterday night that there was female chauvinism. All the education that I had.
It has existed in the context of Africa.
I wouldn't know.
There's nothing like that in the African context. Where Africa is coming from is extreme patriarchy. That's where we're coming from.
So I'm like, what are we doing with labels though? What are we doing with labels? I think it just slows us down. Labels makes us less thinking.
Yeah.
It makes us lazy in the mind. It makes us feel like, okay, I have a definition for whatever it is. Just like, I'm so and so. It's my zodiac that is making me act this way. It's my personality that is making me act this way. All these things, in my opinion, are crutches. So can we go to this famous post? I'm going to bring a radio voice. So enjoy. I think women in relationships and marriage enjoy more liberty to speak as they like than the men. Let's consider some scenarios. 1, you go to a barber shop to get a haircut. As you step into your house, your woman looks at you and erupts in laughter. You ask what is wrong, and she says, "Sure, you didn't check the mirror, honey." The style looks weird. You both laugh about it and move on. Oh yeah? Flip the script. She returns from the salon and you do the exact same thing to her. Just imagine. 2, you get dressed in the morning in the manner that you prefer to appear that day. One look at you and she goes, why are you dressed like this? You look really funny. Should you not have worn XYZ? Oh yeah? Flip the script again. Flip it there. 3, you spend your own money to buy something for yourself, and the first thing she would say will be something like, how can you waste so much money on something you can get for ABC Naira in market? That's what you wrote there. Flip the script again. And 4, you returned home very tired and ended up snoring heavily that night. Of course, you didn't know, but you woke up the next morning to find her sleeping very far away from you. You inquire, and she goes, "You were just disturbing the whole neighborhood with your snores." Flip that script again and think about those moments she snores for some reason. Imagine that you respond in the exact same way. Oh yeah, imagine it. I think women give very little care to sensitivity when addressing the men in their lives, at least way less than they expect the men in their lives to give. He's supposed to be dead to emotions, while hers are allowed to run wild. Not a problem at all, but there is a way it gets more interesting. Once he is done training his emotions to not be very responsive, trouble starts the day she expects him to react emotionally to an issue, but he finds nothing emotional about it. Lugumbade, really, give some kudos to some men in your lives. You'll toy so hard with a man's emotion if he ever has any. And then you put a note: this post is not inspired by feminism or patriarchy. I don't subscribe to any of those petty perspectives. Life is a mixture of responses to challenging situations, so I do not think such static conditioning of the mind does any favor.
Oh yeah. So what's your question?
My question is plenty.
Okay.
Well, I hope I can articulate them. The first will be this: what you've written is a reality. How do we begin to even change it?
I think we shouldn't change it.
Okay,
We
why?
should change something else.
Okay, what's that?
I think that men are comfortable in that space.
Oh yeah.
A man who loves his wife is comfortable in that space.
Okay.
He doesn't have a problem with it. Because he sees her as his baby anyway. So it's like you wear something and then your toddler looks at you and says, "Oh, you look funny. You look funny." And then you look at her like, you shut up. Because of course that can hurt. It can't touch you at any emotional point in your mind. It cannot. You just feel this one. Now, that's how men look at their wives. Look at her like, she's my baby anyway. Allow her. Do you understand? Now, what we have to change is the expectation that women have that men have to be emotional all the time. We are not creations of emotion. Men are not naturally creations of emotion. Men are creations of logic. For the most part, we are creations of logic. We feel that's why the man is the one who, in most cases, is able to deal with emotional downturns. Say someone dies, the expectation of society is that the man will handle it better because they feel this is an object of logic. So he's not going to be driven by his desire to cry. He's going to be driven by his desire to give that person who died a befitting burial. Do you understand? The thoughts are different. So the idea that, okay, my husband, whom I'm able to freely express myself to, should then at some point take a break from being that person who soaks it all in and does not take offense. And then you expect him to now wake up one morning and become an emotional person. That's where the problem starts. We should not expect that a man will suddenly become emotional at some instances and then become stoned to emotions at some other instances. That's the problem lies. I say in every family, women naturally will feel emotions more. And they should understand that, okay, I'm emotional. That's fine. Stay within your space. The guy who is supposed to provide leadership for the family is supposed to be more logical. Because in leadership, emotions take the back seat. Logic takes the front. Do you understand? Now, so we're not supposed to say women should stop expressing themselves to their partners. It is right. In some marriages, we'll find that even if your wife is one that will take it in stride, if you say, you look funny with this hairstyle, you are still going to pay some fine. Jokingly, she will say, hey, I'll go and make an, you will pay for it. Somehow you have to pay for that joke. You will pay for that joke. It's that you pay with your dinner, because she gets too hungry and decides not to cook. You may either pay with your dinner or pay the money she will use to make another one. You understand? So, in most cases, I think what we should just understand is each person has to understand their place in the perspectives that drive marriage. It's a mix of logic and a mix of emotion. Play this scenario. Say you have kids, and then they call you from school to say your child is sick. The natural tendency of a woman is to say, "Yay, what do I do by?" Is to be perplexed. That's the natural tendency of a woman. Now, the natural tendency of the leader is, "Where's my car keys? Madam, let's go to our school." The calm.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to come in, because if that were me, the first thing I'll be doing is taking my car keys. You don't even have the right to say I'm masculine.
So why are you?
You don't have a. You
are stripping me of my right to self-expression.
Because that's for me. Some there's no need to be okay.
But you know why you are like that.
Why?
I don't have to say it's an open secret.
Go ahead. I'm female.
Masculine female.
Go ahead. But what I'm trying to say here, though, is there are a lot of women also who are. Of course, I'm a representation of.
You always have exceptions.
Yeah.
You always have exceptions. But let me put this to you very straight. While you are looking for car keys, be honest with yourself. In every storm, Mr. Cuckoo is calmer.
It's not Mr. Cuckoo. Yeah, you get them, Mr. Cuckoo.
Yes.
BKK is fine.
It's calmer.
Oh, no! In every situation, actually.
In every storm, it's calmer because he wants to rise above it, envision all of the angles to the issue, so that he can provide solutions. Do you understand? Yeah. But you may be putting up a bold face, but somewhere down there's a war going on. Your emotions clashing with themselves. Of course, because you have taken leadership roles all your life, so there's that tendency to want to, of course now. So there's that tendency to want to again be the leader here. But when we check your minds, your mind is calmer, seeking solutions, trying to find ways out of this thing. That's how he is wired. You are wired to have a storm going on in your mind. What do I do if it turns this way? What do I do if it turns that way? What do I do if it turns this way? So for perspective, I feel that what we are doing to unsettle the dynamics of marriage is expecting that one person
unsettle the dynamics of marriage.
Yeah, is expecting that at some point the man will be this and then he will be that. He is a creation of logic. The woman is a creation of emotion. So it is fine for her to be emotional. It is fine for her to be more expressive. It is fine for her to talk more. You get home, you are the person who most likely wants to talk about your day. Most men are the ones who want to plan the next day in their heads. You know, so
I'm not even going to say anything again. Because I don't know. I get back home, I don't want to talk.
But you know your problem.
I don't have a problem. I don't.
You know what the problem is.
I don't want to talk.
You know what the problem is.
I don't want to talk with me. I don't want to talk. And somebody...
Do I need to again remind you that you are Tomishe Kuku?
Yes, I am.
And there is a level of abnormalcy to that fact.
I'm going to punch you. You're in my situation. Yeah. I don't want to talk. Okay, so no, jokes aside, my major, and I let me see if I can find my response to my major concern about this thing we're talking about. Okay, yeah, I can find it. I said this is the first time I'll comment on here, and it's basically because of your caveat. These days, it's so heartbreaking that every conversation is forced to toe these perspectives of, labels. Thank you for the caveat. And it is, while I understand the principle behind almost 98% of men are creature of logic, I have a huge question with men don't cry, men don't show emotions. This is personal me, because for me, it now comes off as if women... Not even women, the society is afraid of men's vulnerability. Why?
I don't want to see it that way. I want to say that there are precepts there are base well, let me put it this way. There are base realities to every situation. Just like I say, to every relationship you go into, the only thing you must take along is kindness. And the only things is kindness and intentionality. You must be sure you want to do this. And you must decide that you have to be kind to that person. Now, in reality, kindness could make you be the roaring lion at some point in the relationship. It could make you be the docile,
the dove,
dove in the relationship, as long as the situation requires that you are kind. Sometimes kindness can make you shout at people.
True.
Because you have to shout some demon in them down. Because they are going off. Yeah, that's the truth. You have to really be kind to them. You get. So, about the society thinking that men should not be vulnerable, I think that those precepts are basic. They are basic precepts.
But is it right?
Well, I think it is. I'll tell you why I think it is.
Okay.
I think that, yes, it's normal to cross the boundary sometimes, get emotional. But for the most part in your life, as a man, you are expected to take some leadership roles.
I don't have a problem with that. But if you have a safe space, if you have a safe space that you find, then you should. What that narrative does is make men swallow the greatest things that bother them. There's relation. That is what is in this.
I think we take it to the extreme. It's why we feel that there should not be any moment. I'll give you an example. When my dad died, I'm the last born of the family.
True?
Yeah,
Really?
I'm the last born of the family.
I'll just be like, yeah.
But I know at all times that the ministry, I am called to the ministry of leadership because I'm a man. I'm sorry. If I can't, I should lead my family at least. My own family, at least, Abi. So at that moment, if every other person is not providing leadership, I must rise to the occasion. Sure. Do you understand? So I had to rise above all of the cries, there was a need on the table. This man had to be kept in a mortuary. That had to be taken out of the way. Yep. We had to take his death certificate. That had to be taken out of the way. We had to find a way to inform people appropriately. That had to be taken out of the way. I had to rise above the current emotion at the time to do everything that was needed to be done at that time. Now, one day, I was driving. It was months after. And then I was driving, and then I remembered something very mundane.
And you just they cried.
So I just parked by the roadside, cried for a few minutes, and then I went my way. That was my release. And what did I remember? I remembered that my dad, who loved to be in charge, at some point in that journey of his death, trusted me completely to make decisions for him. He told
that was humbling.
That's humbling. I was all around, and then the doctor came.
Honor, and then
the doctor came and said they need to do this or that, and he said, "Let Dayo come. When he comes, we take a decision." So I told myself, "Wow,
that's not mundane, though."
Well, I think it was, because it was just one of the many things that happened while he was sick. You get so. I just remembered, and I felt that was much. Trusted me with his life, with the decision that concerned his life. You understand? And then I cried my eyeballs out, and then kicked my car again. I left. So it doesn't mean you should not have emotional releases. There are times when you have them.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, because
you should have your emotional releases. You are not stoned all the time. You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. What I'm saying is, leadership sometimes. Don't forget. I said, leadership sometimes is from the back. I was telling someone yesterday, in my house, I cook 90% of the time. People would say, why? You go to work, you work so hard, then you come back and have to cook. And then I said, okay, look at it this way. I'm the one with the very weird appetite in my house. So it is extremely difficult to satisfy me. Extremely difficult. Now, my wife she doesn't mind. If you ask her what are we having, she'll say anything. So
you see?
She'll say anything.
So you said the stereotypes.
She'll say anything. She doesn't mind.
So that's what I'm saying.
There are times when there has to be a cross-pollination of nature.
Yeah.
So she'll say anything. So when I sit down somewhere and I'm having weird appetites, and I just message her and say, okay, we'll have this for dinner, the answer she will give is, well, it's your call. Do you understand? So I go to the market in my house, I cook the food in my house, I do practically everything in my house. Except only a few things, yeah.
Right.
I don't clean the house.
You don't wash clothes.
I don't wash clothes. I don't wash plates. And I don't serve food. Yes, now. Because if I serve food, God bless you, you see me to eat. It will go to all of it will go to my plate. So I just avoid it and all of that. So what I'm saying is there are times when you have to.
That's some self-coaching, though.
There are times when you have to leave your traditional roles. But it does not mean there are no traditional roles.
I do not. Of course, there are traditional rules. People like me, of course, I rarely see those rules, but there are traditional.
There are traditional rules.
They're traditional, and we cannot run away from
them. We can't shift those goalposts.
We can't shift. No matter how much of label you decide to label us or to identify by. That's the words. That's what we say now, right? Whatever label you want to identify by, even in these choices, the sexual fluidity choices, there's still people who are masculine. That's when we see when we see a relationship between a man and a woman and a woman. There's still people in that relationship. There's a masculine female, like you have called me all day, and there's a feminine male.
You're getting used to it.
All right, so now what would then be the right way to bring up the next generation? I had someone here yesterday at Gen X, because I'm also doing a series on generational shaming.
Okay.
And I had this conversation with my co-host, and then I said, okay, I'm going to get people from different generations, hopefully, and then Dio, I was cold. It was fun to have that conversation. It was cool. And one of the things that he said, so he was quite calm at the beginning until I asked a question. Like, okay, so the perception is that Gen Zs are rude and their confidence borders on rudeness. And he said, you need to have seen the way he came alive. He said, I don't understand. He said, so why do Gen Xers that give birth to Gen Zs feel threatened when Gen Zs have asked them questions? And I'm like, oh. And he goes, the second one, you all have knowledge. What do you do with knowledge that you're not sharing? I'm like, okay. That's hearing. That is how they feel. That's what feeds what we see as audacity. That's what what they are rebelling against is, you have information, you have this knowledge, you've not given to me, you've not empowered me, and you expect me to, and that was a real mental shift for me yesterday. So my question to you is, how then do we pass on the information, knowledge, whatever, that these gender roles will always be these traditional gender roles? However, we need to understand that there's, as you say it, cross-pollination of roles. So, like, how do we pass that on?
Modeling, largely modeling. I think what is missing is today's parents do not have the time to play the roles properly. Modeling. It's important because I found that kids learn by copying. They imitate. That's what they do. But because nowadays we have a lot of irresponsible parents who do not have the time to be proper role models to their children, the children are just on a cruise control. They're just learning whatever it is they need to learn.
Now, what exactly that guy, what
modeling basically. While we were growing, my dad was quite intentional. There were days he will insist that let the boys go and cook. Now, my brother had a way of dodging. And then one Sunday, I remember very correctly, one Sunday we go back from church, and then my dad said, whatever we eat in this house today, the mother is going to cook. He said, make that amala. Let the lumps be as big as stone. All of us will eat it together. But today, the mother is cooking. Oh yeah, Bosibe. And then we all stood there while he fumbled with the Yomorogun. And then he was just going around. But in reality, those things prepared him for certain realities. How did my dad model to us that a man should cook? My mom went on a course because, she got into a job with some very low certificate, and then she had to, so she was not around. At the time, my dad cooked everything we ate. Everything. If you saw my dad with omorogun doing amala, now you grow older, and then you'd say that man gave birth to you, and you became a man who could not help your wife out in the kitchen. You'll be a bastard. Trust me. So, modeling.
Okay, so let me just clear that now for non-Nigerians listening. Okay, the term that he just used now is not necessarily
Omorogun abi?
No, bastard.
Oh, sorry.
It's not necessarily. It's not in the Nigerian context. Let me just put that out there. So, if a Yoruba person says to you that you are pointing at your father's house with a left hand,
yes.
it just typically means that whatever your parents or your ancestors have modeled to you, you have deviated. So that makes you no longer part of that lineage or community.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So, parents have to be the correct models. There's something I said in the last episode. I said, you've got to see your future and then plan that future. Now, you've got to imagine what you want your children to be, the outcome. And then you have to deliberately plot it. We're having a side conversation before this episode. And then we're talking about a few things you have to do because you needed your daughter to grow appropriately. Parents have to know that the ministry of parenting is not a ministry of let's just do it as it comes.
No.
You've got to be extremely deliberate. Sometimes you have to swap the roles so that your male child does not go about with the thinking that, this is me. Do you understand? My daughter will not grow up, find her dad cooking, and then go into a marriage with a man who feels that the woman must cook all the time. She understands the standards. You understand? She understands that in my father's house,
the roles were fluid.
The roles were fluid. It's just that when push comes to shove in that marriage, I'm still the leader. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I'm cooking.
There's a joke to this. Okay, that happened in the house the other day when the children were around for her. I'm like, everybody's going to get into the kitchen and cook. I love cooking. I enjoy cooking, and I usually don't like people around me when I'm cooking. I don't want anybody because it just blocks some, you know. So this day, something entered my head. I said, everybody is cooking, you know, and then JB was not. So I said, JB, come enter at least. So they come and cut and all that. And JB said, since everyone is cooking, Daddy must enter the kitchen too. Henry said, do you want us to die?
Do you want us to eat poison?
But he's also a man. I said, well, Erife said, well, see, yeah, we leave that is married now. You don't know what he was doing when he was a bachelor. I started in the kitchen and I was looking at them. I was there in the kitchen and then she said, you will still be a bachelor before a woman comes. You will die of hunger. Enter the kitchen. You know, I felt extremely proud. I'm telling you, I felt like my head.
You deposited the right.
And then she said, enter the kitchen. You are going to be, even if you marry somebody like mommy that likes to cook, maybe you will cook yourself. You will cook for yourself before you get married now. Then I went, okay.
You deposited the right things.
You know, that day was, and then of course, Daddy now comes to the kitchen and like, Ash, can he put salt? Jola said, no, please. You know, but it was that moment for me, because I'm not sure I sat her down.
Modeling.
I'm not sure I really had that conversation with her.
Modeling.
But I was truly, modeling. I was proud of myself. Let me sing my
modeling. Modeling.
Yeah.
Let me say this. There was a day we started a conversation and then someone said, women collect money from their husbands and present it to the children as if it came from them. That was the solution to this thing. I said, well, the first solution is to marry a kind person.
True.
Because I said a kind person does not care where the money came from. What is important is the children got their needs. So a kind person will not go and paint a different picture.
Yeah.
No. A kind person will present it as daddy and mommy providing for you. It doesn't mean it is my account. It doesn't mean it is our account. But this is daddy and mommy providing for you. So a message is communicated. When you deliver it that way, they understand that a family is run jointly.
I think this is where this is where the crux of this question is I tell people that this narrative of all men are the same, all women are the same, that our parents or our forefathers, or our ancestors, passed down. Oh, all a woman wants is your money. All a man wants, just be there for him. Even if he wants to do shit, let him go. These are the narratives.
They are labels.
And labels that is and has messed up relational existence. It's so painful that we grew up with. If you and I take 10 people now and ask them what their relational stories are, you will be shocked that ballpark here, 70% of them, 7 will say, oh, my mommy said, my daddy said that this is how I should, take care of this is the only thing. And let me borrow your Yoruba. I'm Yoruba. Tababini.
Of course.
Okay, how do I transliterate this now? If once you've been birthed, the onus lies on you to rebirth yourself, to evolve, to look at the realities of the time, and that is where I see stories online all the time, and my head is, what is going on?
Some of them are cooked up stories anyway.
Even if they were cooked,
but it came from an imagination.
Even though the person who cooked that up
has a core mentality,
capability of doing whatever it is they cooked up. And that's so heartbreaking, really. And this is where all the mental health questions here is not depression, is not bipolar, is not schizophrenia, is not narcissism. Mental health questions here is how you deal with yourself, how we deal with it. Because anybody who can cook up all these crazy stories that that's a question that you need to answer. What story are you telling yourself that is enabling you
to act in certain ways?
Certain ways. Are you ready to sit down with those stories and rewrite them for the good of the next generation?
Because I said, look at where you should be 90 years. Will you be happy with the legacy you're leaving?
Do you get?
So you raise children who are irresponsible, and then you have a future as an adult where you are managing crisis. Do you understand? Yorubas will say, Agbati uba keun soro, aketosari. Do you understand? Let me translate that.
Please.
It simply means if you do not change your voice to train your children, if you do not sound harsh at some point to train them appropriately, you are going to be in crisis at old age.
I want to say, so you understand the power of language. I'm a linguist.
Right.
An elderly person who do not navigate the tone of his voice to train his children will run bow-legged when they're older.
Thank you. But the importance of this is, at the time when you still have it in you, when you are young, you are training children, you must model the correct social behavior to them. You must. And I say this with all sincerity. The 2 attributes of humans that I say you must pass down. Let's forget gender roles. There are basic gender roles that the society believes every person must come to the table with. But the 2 traits that you must transfer to anybody who is under your charge are kindness and intentionality. The moment a person comes to every issue with kindness, in fact, if you go into every business conversation with kindness, you are all able to meet in the middle and have a win-win situation. But anybody not kind wants to prey on the next person. Do you understand? So, if you're going into marriage with kindness, there are gender roles that the society expects you to bring to the table. Of course, you bring them to the table. But kindness is knowing when to swap the roles. The roles change. There are times when you go to the other end of the table to do things that you would ordinarily not do according to your gender rules. That's where kindness comes in. Do you understand? Okay, if, say, I've seen situations, okay, a lady called my wife and she was asking, Madam, when you had your child, was it by cesarean section? She said yes. Our own stitch is opening up.
Yeah.
She was not like, how did you manage that it opened up? She said, I've had to cook for my husband and for the family. I say, God damn it. God damn it. How do you make a person do that? It's not kindness.
Who just had a child.
Someone who just had a child. It's not kindness. It's not. So she has to manage her wound, manage the baby, and then still give you food. I would say, honestly.
So you see that most of the stories that we read then are not truly made up.
Now look at the way it could run. There are men who cannot cook. But in kindness, they know that all through that period, they have to buy or arrange someone that will feed them.
Cooking.
Do you understand? It's a subset of kindness. They just know that I cannot make this woman continue to do this. Do you understand? So kindness has a lot of subsets. It could manifest in any kind of way. Do you understand? Okay, I find that, okay, my wife is going through some kind of stress, and then someone needs to take the baby over. I could just take her and take a stroll. We just go around, this and that. Some men prefers to get helps. Please pick that baby up and let her have a rest. Probably he is afraid of babies. They give him some anxieties. Do you understand?
My father did not carry us on, and it still happened with his grandchildren.
But it's still a subset of kindness.
Yeah.
That you are finding solutions for the other person. You're finding a way to exchange the roles at those points when things have to be done. When you have to get things done. Okay, your husband traveled, and then there's some crisis at home. I always say that kind women do not transfer the pressure to him at that moment. They find a stopgap. Let's fix this a bit. When your daddy comes back,
we'll find a permanent solution.
You understand? Yeah. But the place of kindness is she rises to the occasion immediately, does something necessary. It does not mean the moment the husband comes back, she will not again go back into traditional roles. But she rises to the occasion for you at that moment. And then you come back to whatever it is you need to sort. You get. So, for me, I always say that, okay, be intentional. Find people who match your dreams for life. And then go in with kindness. And I say this all the time. Model kindness to your children. Let them know you've got to be kind. And kindness is not dashing people money.
It's not.
Kindness is a lot. Kindness is being thoughtful. Kindness is knowing that, yes, I need to do this for this person. It's being thoughtful. Kindness is knowing that, okay, this is the right thing for the family to do, but this person can't contribute at the moment. Let me help. It's kindness. That's kindness. But we say, we just wake up, all of us want to have kids, and we do not know that we have to be intentional with raising them. Hello? We have to be. We have to be. There has to be intentionality. You have to be sure that this thing I am doing is the right thing. For it. This is what my child needs. You get? And this takes me to something I've always said.
Please go ahead.
And it concerns Africans the most. Children that you do not have both the emotional and the financial capacity to raise, please don't bet them. Please, don't do it. Don't do it. I love children. Ask yourself, do I have the mental capacity to maintain 6-7 toddlers running around the house?
Come on,
will the realities not change me?
Yeah.
You understand?
So let me give a background to that. And this is almost everybody knows the story. Hopefully, I wanted 4 children.
Okay. And
I never understood why my husband wanted less. You know, there was no reason for it in my head, but I wanted 4 children. But after my first child, guess what happened? Postnatal depression. That's a reality. And I didn't even know that it was postnatal depression. All I knew is that my mother would say, because I be singing lewa. And in my head, I'm like, who is that singing? What's like, I'm not running. But that is prenatal psychosis. And I didn't know. Thankfully, my mother-in-law is in the medical line. So she was able to manage it. Of course, after that first one, I aligned with Oga. Like, okay, let's have less children. Let's have less children. Unfortunately, when I had the second child, I had an even deeper PND, and these are the realities that
you had to face. So you begin to retune your thoughts.
I know.
Hey.
They didn't tell me.
Hey, this thing I'm doing, it will not end well. Do you understand?
They didn't tell me.
What will be left of you? Assuming you have to go through that cycle, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth.
You will. There's no how you
what will be left of you? Nothing.
Yeah, you will bleed on the children. You will bleed on your husband. You bleed on your relations. On every relation, and people begin to label you certain way. So the long and short of what we're saying right now is, look at your realities before you make any decision.
Oh yeah.
Somebody saw one. I put my journal at home, but somebody came to the house and there was just what you said. I really didn't want to say anything about it. But in that journal, I wrote what I want to be written on my epitaph. You know, as a friend, I wrote it there clear. As the mother, as the sister, I actually wrote of course the person thought I was being morbid, but that informs how I feed my relationships. That informs.
See what I was saying about memories?
Yeah, memories, yeah. That informs how I feed myself, how I support myself, how I build my own healthy boundaries, how I evolve and re-evolve. Because when I look at that epitaph, because Anne Lamott says that, I don't know if you've ever read or heard that, if people wanted you to write good about them, they should have lived a better life.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, so that...
Every dead person wrote a story. Every dead person wrote their stories. That's the truth.
If they wanted you to write
they
good
should
about
live
them,
intentionally, appropriately, positively.
Yeah.
You understand? So, conclusively, I'll just say that. Yes, there are gender roles. I totally believe there are gender roles. I totally believe it. And society truly imposes gender roles on you that you must play. That's the truth.
That's the truth.
And that's why it's always the man that marries the woman. But the place of kindness and intentionality and knowing what you want is working together. Do you know that at some point, let's not deceive ourselves. It may have been that your husband was looking at the things that happen to people after they have given birth. It could have been the reason he decided that he does not want more than one. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Now, I looked at, when we had my child, I looked at the whole process and I told myself, I'm not doing this twice. No, I'm not. You know, because this woman, what will be left of her, Ghana? Do you understand? What will be left? What will be left? The moment of staying awake at night, dealing with all of that noise, the cries and all of that drives me mad. And then I imagine what is happening to her. Who has to be with the child, who has to breastfeed, who has to do exclusive for 2 years, for 6 months, and then still continue to breastfeed for 2 years. Hello, what will be left?
And if the child is like my first child, she's suckled exclusively. She wouldn't eat
for 2 years.
For 18 months.
You know, now, at the end of 18 months, I'm sure the world had left you behind.
Yeah.
So you have a catch-up of 18 months to do. That's why balance your goals. How you want to look back. A constant question I ask myself is, whatever I'm doing now, will my 70-year-old version be proud of me?
Yeah. I almost spoke in tongues.
Will he be proud? Will he be proud?
Yeah.
Will my 70-year-old look upon me now and feel, guy, you are making me proud? Is it possible? So, look at how you want to end, where you want to land, and then look at the realities that will make them possible. Okay, you want to be useful for your children, you want to leave a legacy in Nigeria of today. Can you leave a proper legacy for 10 children? It's not possible. It's not. You even leave strife. You will leave fights. But that's the truth, that's what you leave. Can you be mentally and emotionally there for 10 children?
For 10 children.
Is it possible? It's not.
It's not.
You were saying something before we started this episode. You said you have a teenager in whose life you know a lot of new changes are cropping up. So at that moment, you know, this is my full-time job. Can you do it 13 times?
No.
Can you do it 5 times?
Hell no.
You know, by the time you do it the first time, the second time, the third time,
you're totally lost.
You're lost.
You're lost.
You begin to bleed on people because you're hot, and then you begin to bleed on people. That's how you put it.
I was waiting when you would.
Yes, that's the truth. You misbehave. You insult people you are not supposed to insult. That's what you do. So plan that life. Every tiny bit of it. Every bit of it. The only way nature can shock you is maybe you get pregnant and then you suddenly have 6 instead of 1. That's nature coming into play. It's not your fault. But the truth is, the moment it happens, you also now need to reassess. Sit down and think again.
And see how you can
think again. Broaden your scope.
Because every relationship has their own DNA.
You get it.
And you have to sit down to perform that paternity test on your relationship. That's how we're going to round that off. As intended, in a moment. Well, next episode. Love yourself, love your neighbor, love this country. Above all of this, love God. He is the essence of your being. Mindfully to Michi will be back. Oh yeah?